The Grifters are at it again. Dragon Quest has gone woke. Dragon Quest has pronouns. The protagonist is a they, them. Oh, we're going to have to boycott this game that we were totally looking forward to. Yeah. Unbelievable. I would like to call out both Clownfish TV and Raging Golden Eagle for this nonsense, because this has been going on for a long while. It isn't anything new or interesting, but it's really interesting to see people who purport themselves to be huge fans of Japanese media make all these wild claims about upcoming projects while conveniently ignoring things that happen in other games that are in their wheelhouse, right? Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring are perfectly fine, but oh no, Dragon Quest has gender A and B, and we don't have any other confirmation as to what that might mean. It's just niche gamer doing what they always do when it comes to new Dragon Quest releases and just spurging out over nothing, right? I remember when the Dark Prince came out last year, Dragon Quest Monsters 3, The Dark Prince. I remember when that came out last year, and people were spurging out about the fact that, what's her name? Mila? The other one is Mina, right? So I can never remember her name. Mia. The dancer girl. She has spats. Oh man. Back in the day, she wasn't wearing anything under there at all, but now she's censored. They spurged out about that. Dragon Quest 8, that was re-released for 3DS. Oh no, they changed the dog food scene. They censored it. It's always been this weird narrative among these people that the games are constantly getting censored, and they have to be vigilant watchdogs to keep an eye on the product to make sure it's not they're not doing anything underhanded or ridiculous. And if you listen to these people, they'll try to tell you that Dragon Quest has been poorly localized from the very beginning. They'll try and tell you that Dragon Warrior came over here. It removed Toriyama's artwork. Yeah, because Toriyama's art wasn't a selling point at the time. Right? They'll try to tell you that oh man, Nintendo censored this. They'll try and pull all these tricks and try and keep the discussion negative, right? Remember how when Dragon Quest 7 came out, how on 3DS, how everybody was complaining about the localized the accents that everyone has, the really goofy exaggerated European accents, oh, that's ridiculous, that's not the Japanese. Yeah, but the Japanese creators wanted that for the English versions, right? Again, I don't understand what's so hard to understand about this is that these changes are approved by the creators. So why exactly are you freaking out over things like this? Now, I agree that the gender A and B thing is stupid, right? The implication being that gender B, the female one, is inferior to gender A. Again, I think in and of itself it's a misogynist thing. Why not just have male and female icons? What's the big deal? It's really dumb, and I agree with that, but to boycott the game over it, to suggest that this is why we don't support Square Enix, no, if anything, the game looks great. Everything about it looks great. I know people who have played the game. I've seen early impressions of it. It looks fantastic. The idea that I should boycott Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake because of a character select screen really is laughably off base. Right? That is not something I'm interested in doing. And I do think it really needs to be said, the real issue with modern games is the decline in quality, right? It has nothing to do with woke culture. This is the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand, is that they want to blame woke culture specifically for the decline of PlayStation and Xbox games, but that really has nothing to do with it. The reality is, the developers that developed exclusively for PlayStation and Xbox for the past 25 years have not cultivated talent. They have not built up any long-lasting IPs. Like, they don't know how to run the industry, right? They have completely failed compared to the far superior, well-made, developed Nintendo properties, right? Like, the reality is that like the decline in quality has been the quality has been going downhill since like the 2000s, if not like earlier. Like, to put the blame like on everything going downhill on like wokeness specifically is laughable. And I do think this is one of those things that really needs to be addressed more, because I'm really tired of hearing about this. Like, every time a new game, typically a Nintendo exclusive, comes out, like, you see these stories come out and you see people like trying to freak out and trying to create a controversy. Like, oh, Nintendo's been censoring games since the 90s. I guess they're up to their old tricks. Like, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, they really do come off like parodies of themselves at this point. It is ridiculous, and I'm very curious to see just how little that this controversy is going to affect sales, right? Because Dragon Quest 3 is going to do well, just like Dragon Quest Monsters 3 did well, right? Like, nothing we've seen indicates like any kind of drop in quality of in the product, right? But you're seeing people like make all these wild assumptions about what this means, and like, Square Enix is compromised, which they are, but at the same time, like, they still have the capacity to make good games. Like, they're not a Western studio. They still have developers who can make objectively good games. It's again, it's sad to see like people like write off legitimately good stuff like this for such petty reasons, but yeah, it does need to be called out for what it is. It's just people trying to fabricate a controversy about a major upcoming Nintendo exclusive. Like, that's it. Like, it has nothing to do with like the war against woke culture. It has nothing to do with the quality of the product. It has nothing to do with localization or anything, right? It's just another method to it's just other means of going after Nintendo, right? Like, that's really all this is. And it does kind of feel like with this incident in particular that like these guys have really like exposed themselves over and over again as just being like these boys who cried wolf. That's kind of the way I described it. Like, the last time this happened, I don't remember when this was about, but like, yeah, like, these guys have cried wolf so many times that people like me, who were initially like fairly sympathetic to them, have like turned our backs on them just because of just how willing they are to like cry foul at like any mild character design change, or like a creative decision, or like a character select screen, or anything, right? Like, the issue has always been that like these guys are looking for a reason to complain. Even if Nintendo and Square Enix did everything they wanted, they would not come out for the product, because I think it's very safe, very clear at this stage that these people are not the core audience for the products they criticize. It's become very apparent to me for a long time that these people don't play games. They don't care about games. All they want to do is fight a culture war that they have no hope of ever winning.